Welcome to Own It, the podcast where we talk to real estate thought leaders about embracing your strengths, taking your career to new heights, and owning your future.
I'm Hillary Saunders, co-founder, chief broker officer at Side, and this is a special technology edition with my technology challenged co-host.
No, I'm pretty good. Yeah, I used to work for Apple, but we'll talk about that later.
For the love of God, that's your 1,000th job.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I digress.
Right.
But this is also a special edition because we have my other co-founder, Ed Wu, our CTO, as our guest to talk about all things tech. I am so excited for this. Thank you, Ed, for joining us.
Great to see you, Hill. And great to see you, Spencer. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
This is going to be fun.
Yes.
Before we get into all things Side, I just want to know a little backstory on you, Ed. Specifically, how and why did you get into tech? Because I believe your parents are not technologists, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. They're totally from a different field.
Right. So where did this start?
Well, I would say it's from living in a small town with absolutely nothing to do, not having a whole lot of friends, and needing a creative outlet. And I just fell in love with computers. And I'm 40 now. So when I was a kid, like, they were in their infancy. Like, it was very uncommon for somebody to have like a household computer or an internet connection or whatever. You know, all that stuff was just very weird. It was this niche hobby that I got kind of pulled into through my dad. He was like a computer hobbyist. He sort of is still today, but basically we had a computer that I'd take apart, put back together, read really old, thick books on how to write code. And I just enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of cool. It was like a place to build stuff.
Side is not your first endeavor into creating a company using technology in the tech space. I'd love to hear your kind of intro and experience in building out a company. What pitfalls did you find? If they failed or if they succeeded, what did you learn? And then we'll get into the Side stuff in a bit. Yeah,
Great question. So really all throughout my life, I have been trying to make money using computers as a platform. And, it started when I was like a teenager, putting flyers in people's mailboxes saying like, hey, I can fix your computer, I can set up your home network, I can do image editing, whatever the heck it is that you need or want. And I'd literally ride my bike to people's houses and build websites for them or fix their computers, do random things like that. So it started really early. I've always had a desire to be in this whole space. And I went to college for computer science and knew I wanted to move to Silicon Valley one day and be at the heart of it all. And along the way, I did as much consulting as I possibly could. So like living in a dorm room and building websites, building applications for businesses around town that would have me. And then really, all of that was in honesty, just practice and warm up for the real thing, for the professional world. Because the stuff I was doing then, it was a great learning experience. I was learning how to interact with people and how to price things and how to deal with conflict, all those things that you deal with as a business owner. So I graduated with a degree in computer science from a small school in Rhode Island, and then moved straight to Santa Clara, California, right in the heart of the valley. And I worked at a big tech company for 3.5 years. And I saved up as much money as I could. I think I was around like 25. I had saved up about $100,000. I was really proud of that. Most money I had by like a factor of 10 or more. And I rolled it all into my first business venture, which was Vidyard. It became Vidyard. At the time, it was called Redwoods Media. It was a video production company that we really just used to make explainer videos to people. Like, so if like one of our customers was BlackBerry, for instance,
are they still around?
I don't know.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, they're hanging on.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
But, no, it's a great question. At the time, the company was called Research in Motion.
Sure.
And now it's officially BlackBerry, and it's crazy to see their market share slip to what it's become. But at the time, they were the titan, And
yeah.
We managed to get a contract to make a video for them, and really good money just to bang out this little animated explainer video. And it was cool, but it was very limited. My business partner at the time and I always knew that this was never going to be like some sort of like large-scale company that, a venture capitalist would want to put money into, we always felt, okay, it's only going to be as big as we can produce content, and that's always going to be limited by people. So we saw an opportunity to kind of like pivot into a whole different space, and that became Vidyard, which is it's still around today. It's a video hosting platform for business. So we were creating these videos for companies and then handing them back to them, and they were saying, what do we do with it? Do we throw it on YouTube? Do we throw it on Vimeo? And they really didn't know, and there really wasn't a good answer for them either. So we kind of filled that need ourselves. We built a platform to host the videos ourselves and charge them a monthly fee. And that became very clear to us that it was like a bigger opportunity. This is something that you could raise venture funding for and have a large tech company behind. And Vidyard became my foray into like really like larger scale tech. We had the privilege of getting into Y Combinator in summer 2011, which is this really prestigious startup incubator program based right in Silicon Valley. My advisors were Paul Graham, Sam Altman, who's a household name now, Gary Tan, Paul Buchheit, all these people that at the time were extremely successful and prominent, but now they're in a whole nother stratosphere. So I was very privileged to get into that program and have them as my advisors and have my peers from Y Combinator become like a network, like a very close personal network. We still stay in touch today, 13 years later.
That's interesting because you showed entrepreneurial chutzpah. Look, I used.
Oh, yeah, you did chutzpah, but
okay,
all right.
Yeah. Anyway, as a young child, and you already were exhibiting like client research and ability to really find a niche, and then you, in your foray into actually building a business, you identified, hey, we have this program, this platform, there really is a need. We're going to go fill it, which is very, I think, telling, because a lot of people get too narrow focused in what they're building and actually don't see where the need is or where they're lacking to actually make it successful, and then they fail. At least that's what I've seen. So what did you learn from any type of either growth or failing that you took to Vidyard to make it successful?
Yeah, it's a great question, Hill. So I think by far the most important thing I learned was, if I'm going to sink all my time and energy into a business, I got to have my heart like really in it. It's got to be something that I absolutely love, and I want to be doing all day, every day. And that was a tough learning that I had to obtain from starting Vidyard, because I definitely got burnt out. I felt that the work I was doing didn't matter at a certain point, and my time there was expendable, and just kind of didn't want to do it anymore.
When you were saying you had to be passionate about it, was it the work itself, or did you want to be in a different space?
More the space.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, my space is always, I'll always be a software guy, like forever. Like, I'll always be fascinated by computers and tech and all that stuff. That's just built in. But yeah, in terms of the space, it was hard for me to get excited about it. And I decided I wanted to do something in a different space, something that excited me, that I wanted to wake up and get fired up over each and every day. And I didn't know what that was going to be. And all I did know was that I wanted to work with Guy Gal.
So let's take a second, because I want to know how you and Guy got together. So Guy is our other co-founder, for those listening who don't know, and we'll chat with him in another episode. But how did you and Guy get to meet and learn if you guys were compatible business brains?
It's kind of a ridiculous story.
This is great.
So you already know the answer. I don't know the answer.
No, I know. But that's
this
ridiculous.
Is good for me. Yeah.
So Guy, at the time when I was doing Vidyard, Guy was also doing a video-based tech company endeavor called Kingmaker. And we said something kind of ridiculous on Twitter about, being pioneers in the space and doing all these innovative things. And Guy, being very active on social media, called us out on it. And my business partner, my former business partner, kind of asked him, hey, he's like, I see you're also based in Canada. You're a video guy. Let's meet up. We can have differences of opinion, but let's talk them out face to face. Sure. Next thing you know, we're meeting up and sharing our stories, and we hit it off. In spite of Guy's tweet being a bit of a troll, I forgot what it was exactly, but he was definitely giving us our time. And yeah, we loved Guy and made him an advisor, and worked with him very closely for several years after that. And after I left the company, Guy continued, advising Vidyard, and basically some time had passed, and we reconnected. A friend of mine, Alex Kalisic, brought Guy to my birthday party, and I hadn't seen him in a really long time. And in typical Guy form, he had to do something outrageous and over the top. He knew I loved eggs, so he bought like 12 dozen eggs to this birthday dinner, which is just so weird and so funny. And it was just another reminder of why I like the Guy so much. He's hilarious.
For just as an aside,
Yeah.
for another Ed birthday, I think we gave him like 3 dozen avocados.
Yeah, you did.
I have a question for you. So when you hooked up with Guy again, where was he in the space, and did you immediately think I want to work with him? Like, how did that come about, where you had that connection?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Guy had just sold his company to Joyous, a tech startup in San Francisco, and he was doing the whole buyout thing. Where you get acquired, you have to give them a certain number of years to fully vest your equity. And he was thinking about pulling out early and jumping into a whole new thing. And he needed a business partner. And I was absolutely ready for another endeavor myself. The thing is, Guy and I had never worked like that closely one-on-one. So we were both a little apprehensive, and we needed to spend some time together. So we just did all kinds of random things. We went on hikes, we went on trips to like the forest, like just did a couple of like overnights camping, stuff like that. And we just realized we have great chemistry between one another. We enjoy hanging out with each other. And I think that's so important as business partners. Like if you don't like being around the other person, like just socially, personally, there's no way in hell you're going to start a company together, because it's like having a kid. It's so many ups and downs.
Yeah. Well, when you think of the origin stories of like Hewlett Packard or Apple or whatever, and so many times there are partners, even Microsoft, there are all these partnerships. Facebook, another one, where people were living together, right? And some of them in the college dorm, but other of them just spending so much time in the garage together. I've never thought about having to, going and take a hike and do something like that. And
Guy did the same thing, right? When you guys were researching the real estate space, is that he trolled a bit on LinkedIn to get my attention. And then when we met, which was supposed to be 15 minutes, it turned into like 3 hours, because just everything that we were saying was clicking and the wheels were spinning. And I knew that Ed and I would be great friends when we went to New York and we went and saw American Psycho on Broadway. And we were like, this is the best thing ever, because it was both of our favorite movies. And it's not really a favorite movie that comes up on most people's lists, but it was at the top of ours.
Yeah,
totally.
So I was like, okay, we're good.
I'm going to move my chair over a little bit. This is but that's so cool, because again, you're saying it's like having a child, and you guys had to work really closely together. When you said I wanted to work with Guy, did Guy say, hey, let's do real estate, or was it let's find something to do together?
It was more like let's find something to do. And that's really when we started Discovery, where we were like, let's dive in. Let's table all the ideas that we're currently investigating and dive into the real estate one. And that's how Hillary came into the fold. So we were, as you mentioned, we were looking for folks that we felt were credible in the space and demonstrated the behavior we're looking for. Basically, independence. People that felt that they had built a brand of their own, strong enough to stand on their own. And I remember HH Realty.
Yeah.
That was your brand.
Yeah.
And you also had a law practice too, and office space in a nice building in San Francisco. And we were just like, this person is incredible. We just got to meet her and make sure we get along. and obviously that was the best thing ever.
Yeah, you went to go see American Psycho together, right? I mean, what could be bad with that? So why Hillary?
We courted, or so to speak, quite a few brokers.
Stalked on LinkedIn.
Yeah. we courted a lot of them, and having lunches and coffees with them, getting to know them, meeting their significant others, all that stuff. And Hillary stood out like so far above everybody else, just so much further forward thinking than your traditional broker. Like I could tell. You're more of, I think your attorney background really helps because it causes you to be less fearful of the consequences. Like you've practiced law. You've got a far more well-rounded understanding than I think 99% of brokers out there because they don't have that background. So that, and obviously interpersonally, I think that was probably a huge factor as well. Because I always say this to people when we're hiring. Equally important is your ability, is that person's personality. Mm-hmm. Like those things are equally important. I don't care if you're the smartest software engineer on the planet, like you've got all these insane accolades, but you're an absolute jerk. No one wants to work with you. Like that's a hard pass. Does not matter how talented you are. And conversely, it's like just because they're super nice and they compliment you and they schmooze their way through the process doesn't mean we can overlook all the shortcomings in on their resume and when we give them coding challenges and things like that.
Mm. Were you talking mainly with brokers up in Northern California, or you were? All right, so I'm not going to be insulted. You didn't call me. So, but I only have a fake law degree. So you and Guy meet Hillary, and you want to start this company. So how did what was the conversation to say? Like, this is how we're going to develop the space. Like, what was that sort of investigation that you had to do to decide, we're going to be starting Side. Like, this is the approach we're taking.
Yeah, so this was by far one of the best learning experiences from my past lives and Guy's past lives that we applied to Side. So we realized before you write a single line of code, before you raise $1 of venture capital, you've got to do serious market research. And this is well known. This is like in every textbook there is. And everybody says that they do it, but nobody actually does it. They think customer discovery is like, oh yeah, we talked to, a dozen people like for an hour a piece and we got a pretty good hold on the market, or they rely blindly on their prior experiences, which are oftentimes just a sliver of what the market really entails. So there's like not nearly enough diligence done in customer discovery, in my opinion. And Guy and I were like, all right, let's really, really dive in. Let's spend the next several months of our lives doing nothing but interview real estate agents, brokers, transaction coordinators, marketers, anybody that'll give us the time of day that are in this space. Let's talk to them. And we over the course of many months, captured literal hundreds of pages of notes. I'm a rigorous note taker. I still got the Google Docs in my drive, hundreds of pages of notes. And it wasn't until many months in that we started hearing common threads across the board. And we started to basically formulate a thesis of what this business needed to be. What was the problem we were going to solve? How are we going to price it? Who are our early adopters going to be? What's this business going to look like in 5 years or 10 years? We got the answers to all those questions before we ever built a single thing. And I think that is one of the things we did really, really right. And I'm very proud of it.
So I remember when we were in my office in San Francisco and you and Guy were talking about technology, and I was so taken aback and impressed by just the sheer thought of what you guys were saying, that we could use software to automate or compress the life cycle of a transaction at that time from what was taking me, I will raise my hand, me about 12 hours in California to do a whole transaction to like an hour. And that blew my mind. And I was so impressed just with your confidence and, oh yeah, we can write that. It was cool to know that you had done the research and understood what I was talking about in my pain point. So my question is, what other pain points were you and Guy at that point discovering from the other top agents and brokers that you were talking to?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Yeah, I would say, God, just about everything was a mess. Like you ask a real estate agent, what's going well, what's a mess. They're going to throw the book at you. There's going to be a lot. So it's tough to sift through and pick, like, what is the thing that I want to focus on? Because you can't solve it all. A fool's errand is to try and fix every single problem your customer has. You're going to burn yourself out and not do anything well. When you try to do everything, you don't do anything.
We'll back up. Can you repeat that? Because I think that's a massive takeaway. You need to write this down and let it sink in.
Yeah, it's true. You don't want to spread yourself too thin and water down what it is that you do. Got to focus on the one thing. And, we had our pick of the litter. We were like, there's everything wrong in this industry. Like, where do we begin? So we ultimately resolved that the most important thing that we could fix is exactly what you said, compressing the transaction. Because let's face it, it's the most important part of that whole process. If you can't get that deal to get facilitated in a really streamlined way, what are you even doing in real estate for? That is the number one thing. So we said we're gonna omit any possibility of doing like a consumer-facing business. We do not want to deal with consumers. That is what the agent is there for. The agent has that relationship. They have all that cachet with the community. That's what they're good at. They're sponsoring Little League games and doing Easter egg hunts. Like, we're not going to beat that by building some website or some app or whatever to do it better than them. So let's sit behind the scenes. Let's let that agent do what they do really, really well. Facilitate the deal with the customer, get those customers, get those clients, all that stuff. And we will make them the most productive we possibly can. We will increase their productivity tenfold or more. Who knows? Who knows what the limit actually is? And that really became clear to us. That's the problem we're going to solve. Like, that's what this business needs to be about. And we just kind of going back in line with the story. Once it became clear to us, like, that's what we wanted to do, we started suggesting it. We were saying to this cohort of industry people that we were meeting with on a regular basis, like, hey, what if we did this? And unanimously, people were like, yes, hell yes, Ed, Guy, do that. Like, you build that, you're onto something. Like, not only that, we'll join you. Like, one by one, the people that we were interviewing were like, hey, seriously, if you build this product, you build this company, I will move my license over and be a part of it. So we were like, all right, let's get them to sign some letters of intent and put their money where their mouths are. Not that it's a binding agreement, but at least it shows a bit more seriousness. So we got a whole bunch of these folks to sign LOIs. And we took this thesis, the stack of LOIs, which represented future revenue, and started pitching some VCs. And in a very short amount of time, we raised a seed round of funding. And we were very, very blessed and privileged to have obtained that as quickly as we did. We had some people that believed in us. And I think some of our prior successes certainly helped. But I remember some of the first money in was Alex Kolisic with 8VC, and then Dana Stalder with Matrix Partners. Those two believed in us from the very, very beginning. And we used that money to take this idea to market. Immediately hired up a couple of engineers. One of them you may know.
I might be married to him.
Yeah, Stephen Saunders. Scott Prue, who's still with us today after all these years. Chris Zoba, fantastic engineer, who was with us for I'd say 4 or 5 years. And then just grounded out We found an office space, 466 Brandon Street, built it out, opened up our doors for business, and within a relative short order, we were oversubscribed. We had more demand for side than we had capacity to keep up for. It was pretty wild. And so we raised that money, and by the end of that year, we got preempted for yet another fundraise to do a Series A, which kind of for those listening that are not super familiar with fundraising and what all this stuff means, it's basically if you check off a bunch of very hard boxes in terms of revenue and margin and traction, product market fit, all this stuff, then you have the privilege of raising money. It is not something that is available to you unless you're doing extremely well, because venture capitalists, they're sophisticated. I mean, not all of them, but for the most part, it is very hard to get them to agree to write you a check. You have to have something real. And we were able to prove that out in a really short amount of time because we did our homework, because we got all those learnings early on, and we didn't build a bunch of things that were just stupid and incorrect. So, I think I should probably explain what it is the platform does, because I've talked a lot about, we've talked a lot about it in terms of like the value it creates and all that stuff, but maybe now would be a good time to talk about how it does that. So first and foremost, going back to when we were interviewing real estate agents and transaction coordinators and you name it, first thing that we observed was a complete lack of organization. Everybody had this problem. It was like just a disorganized, chaotic mess. Like in the best case scenario, somebody was maintaining like a Google sheet that had all the deals and all the buyers and it was kind of like projecting how the company, how the business was going to do. But like, for the most part, it was just let's say it's a team of 5 people, right? You've got like a top producer and then like 4 folks under that top producer. It's just chaos. Everybody's writing offers or working on different deals. Nobody knows what anybody's doing unless, again, there's like a spreadsheet keeping track of it. That was like as good as it gets. So first and foremost, we decided, okay, we've got to bring organization to this chaos. The moment you log in to our product, you see all the deals that you and your team are working on. And there's permission settings too, so that, if 2 people on the same team are writing an offer on the same home, they can't see what each other are writing. So we've got all that built into it. But yeah, organizing the deals was first and foremost table stakes, something we had to do before we could even contemplate building anything beyond that. Second off, another table stakes kind of thing was that it's got to work on mobile. Let's face it, no real estate agent wants to be tethered to a computer. They're all out in the field at all times. Nobody's at a desk. And that had to be like a major requirement from the very, very beginning, that this thing works on your phones. So another table stakes kind of thing. Another table stakes thing that's so easy to overlook. Got to work multi-state. A lot of folks work like, right on a state line, and that just adds a ton of complexity and just chaos to their workflows. It's like doubling the complexity the moment you have 2 states to deal with, or more. So then by creating, first and foremost, a place to organize their lives, that's number one. Like that was the very first thing that our product needed to do. Bring order to the chaos. The second thing that we decided it needed to do was contract origination. And what I mean by that, very simply put, if you're selling a home for somebody or you're writing an offer on a property, that property is going to have what we kind of roughly call point of sale requirements. So based on where that home is located, based on what type of property it is, apartment, townhome, single family residence, based on when it was built, there's all these variables that require the forms to be different. Not only the forms that you need to requisition, but the way you fill out those forms. And I'm speaking to 2 brokers that have vastly more experience than me.
You're doing a very good job explaining it.
So
I'm very proud of you right now.
Thanks, Phil. You've taught me a lot. Yeah, we realized, this is crazy. All these rules need to be in somebody's head. It's insane. Like, how are they supposed to keep track of all this, especially when the rules are constantly changing? So we realized the app needs to requisition and help fill out these forms and to its best of its ability to prevent mistakes, to promote compliance and correctness and completeness and all these things that are so important when it comes to doing a real estate deal. So that's number one, organization. Number two, contract origination. That's the first two pieces. The third piece is, in my opinion, compliance, and that's really where you guys come into play. So compliance, in my mind, means a free-flowing stream of information about this deal to a broker so that they can be approving and signing off on things as needed. So the system has that all built into it, as you guys already know. As files come in, they're audited or they're rejected and they're filled out correctly. So it just takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. It takes a lot of the fear. I like to put myself in the shoes of a real estate agent, and I like to think about, okay, what if I'm doing like a weird deal that's way outside the norm of what I typically do?
And you're in a time crunch.
Yeah, and I'm in a time crunch. I can't hit up my broker of record because it's like some obscene hour, and I need help. Although I'm sure you guys get that all the time and you still answer anyway.
Yeah.
But
I have insomnia, so the 2 a.m. call is.
For most folks out there, if you got to do a deal that's outside the norm, and you're a little shaky, really nice to know that the app you're using has your back. Got all those rules plugged into it, and even if you do make a mistake, the compliance department's going to kick the file back to you anyway because they're going to catch it and warn you what went wrong. So compliance is the third key piece, and the app has that built right into it. And the fourth piece is disbursements, payments and disbursements. Right. So there's one thing I've learned about real estate agents: they love getting paid and they like getting paid on time. So we have, as far as I know, the only brokerage in the country that has real-time payments. The moment escrow closes, the wire hits our account, and assuming we have a demand and everything's signed off, the file's in good standing, that money hits the real estate agent's bank account that moment.
Wait a second, you mean there's no paper checks? You mean I don't have to leave checks in my desk drawer till I make it to the bank?
You know what? We as I'm sure you recall, we had to tell folks, look, we're not doing paper checks here.
Yeah.
Like that's just out of the question. It's ACH or bust. Like, why would you want paper checks? It's just another thing to get lost. Just another delay in the process. I can recall a time, maybe a year ago or so, where somebody called us up, super irate. They thought the money was going to be in their account. They're like, where the heck is it, you guys? And we came to realize that they were missing one signature for one file, and it got held up because of that. And the DocuSign request was in their inbox. So they were like, oh, okay, let me pull it up. They signed the request. We dispersed the funds. They refreshed their bank account. The money was in there.
Wow.
Literally in under a single minute, the problem got resolved. The money was in their account. And I don't know of a single brokerage in this country that can do something like that. So.
Yeah, you're talking about the pain points of the non-sexy part, $1 million payment office, right? No, but I'm very thankful that you did. I mean, one of the reasons I came over is because I saw how it would help me, right? So, as one of the as a supervising broker, you can to have this contract close, to have everything in one area where people are writing the contracts, and we have to have adequate supervision of the agents. And back in the paper days, very easy, because you would deliver paper and I would sign the paper, and I wouldn't be able to look at the transaction once people started doing everything electronically. Now I have access to what's going on in the transaction, and we can see it all along the way, and we can track it as well, which I think is really important. And I always say, there's a reason there's no TV show called $1 Million Back Office, right? Because I would watch it, and I know like 4 other people that would. But everything is so deliberate from what you're solving, and so there's one thing which is very frustrating, and I want you to, and I get it now, right? But everyone wants something right now, right? Like I have my issues. I think I email you, once every 3 months saying, hey, can we get this, for the app? And it's like, yeah, but there are these other things which we need to be solved first. How do you keep your clients, being our agents, happy when they're saying we need A, B, and C, but really you know that what we're working on is D, E, and F?
Yeah, great question. So first off, I totally agree. This is a non-sexy problem to solve. And I think that's why nobody's solved it yet. Paul Graham says, he has kind of a checklist of good problems to solve. Amongst that checklist is non-obvious problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is both non-obvious, and then add to it, it's not sexy. No one's going to work on it. And that's like bewildering to me. I remember going to Google Scholar, seeing if anybody had patented some piece of software that does this, or has even like filed a provision or something. Nothing existed at all. Because I couldn't find anything in market, like just from searching the heck out of it, talking to people. It just blew my mind that nobody had solved this really obvious, massive need in the market. But to answer your question more specifically, how do we know what it is that we need to build when there's so many people throwing ideas at us? We have a very simple framework for that. And it's all about how much time does this or that feature or this or that thing that somebody's asking for save. But Hill, you asked about AI and future developments of the product and the software. I'll tell you, the things we're being asked for are surprisingly, again, not sexy. It's not AI. It's not blockchain. It's not NFTs. It's not supercomputing. It's the basics. It's the fundamentals. And it goes to show that you got to nail the fundamentals before you can do anything else. Until that's been done, I don't think anybody wants anything else. Like we're asking for things like, hey, Ed, I'd like for the app to handle seller multiple counter offers better.
Mm-hmm.
I want that to be like a one-click thing. I would prefer it if you made leases more streamlined, because there's a specific type of workflow that I like to follow that you don't accommodate currently.
Yeah.
Like, these are reasonable requests, very reasonable things that we need to be doing extremely well if we want to be the best at contract to close. And until we've nailed those fundamentals, we don't even allow ourselves to contemplate some crazy futuristic thing that somebody may even be asking for. There may be an agent out there too that's asking for some pie in the sky thing. But I always bring them back to the basics. I'm always like, well, do you really want that when you don't even know how your team performed last quarter, because your reporting's kind of a chaotic mess?
Well, and I think to your earlier point is that when there is third-party development on those other instances, let them be really good at what they're doing and let us focus on our niche and stay in our lane. Because if and when they develop something that is wonderful and you vetted it and it is something that we want to bring to our community, then we'll integrate it. And it doesn't have to be us to develop it.
Totally. 100% agree.
Yeah, it's amazing how sometimes you see really bad implementation of stuff because they're trying to solve a problem immediately. Oh, we're going to give this to you. So either they partner with the wrong people or they bring in somebody to write it, and it's just obviously so hacked in. One example of that, I think, there's another company that's out there that supposedly handles the whole transaction. And, they do contracts and stuff really well, and they have all these other parts of it for handling the transaction, and it's brought together by different companies that were bought and put together. They're not talking to each other.
Yeah.
I know people that work there, and it's like, and they're saying, like, we don't have an integrated product. You guys do. And it's just kind of funny because they're huge. They're huge in the space, and they just don't understand what the agent's looking for. But the other part, which I think is really interesting, is you solve this problem, which normally just would be an app, right? Which then you would sell to a brokerage and let the brokerage worry about it. You built a brokerage. Well, which is obviously why you're why you were brought in. But why did you decide to do that when it could have just been a tech solution, a really good tech solution?
It's so fascinating you ask that, because we contemplated that. We considered, hey, you know what? We could build this piece of software and sell it straight to brokerages. And God, that'd be a hell of a lot easier, especially from a distribution standpoint. If we got in a contract with just one national scale brokerage and they put this product in every single office, boom, overnight, insane amounts of revenue coming in. So we very much considered that path. The reason we rejected it was that we felt it would just perpetuate all the same problems that exist in the industry, and we wanted to shake it up.
See, that's it. Yeah, we're done. No, no, but that's the passion.
Drop.
No, but the thing is, there's the easy way out.
Yeah.
You know, when I want to go back to funding just for a moment, because when I was looking at the company I was approaching, and I'm like, I don't know anything about tech companies, or whatever. And I called a friend of mine that's in the VC space, but not involved in real estate at all. And he said, well, let me check him out. I don't know him. And he said two things. The first one was, I think it was right after Sapphire Ventures had come on board. And he said, this guy's smart. Paul
Levine.
Yeah.
Paul Levine. He's smart. So if he's at the company, no, you're okay. But he said, the other thing is they only raised, and I don't remember what it was, like 39 million. I think it was.
Yeah, the Series C was 35.
35 million.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, only, huh? Because you're hearing all these huge stories of, they raised $1 billion, for instance. And he said, no, that's a really good thing. Because they're obviously very deliberate in terms of where they know how much money they need to raise to do whatever they need to do next. Because then suddenly you get saddled with, you have all this money, and now, okay, that's where people make mistakes. We've got to give our investors this, and the investor says, well, I think we need in case space aliens want to buy real estate, and so let's work on this antenna system. Nothing to do with, and I'm not saying I know of any company that did that, but you get these wild asks. I thought that was really impressive too. Was that baked into the mix, that you were being very deliberate in terms of how you were growing?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd most definitely say so. We had to say no to a lot of businesses as we started this thing off. So, the brokerage was in a lot of ways a go-to-market strategy. There's a lot of ways we go to market. That was the way we wanted to enter. We wanted to create an actual brokerage, get the licensing. Hill is the whole brains behind that. And thank you very much, Hill.
You're welcome.
And basically, we decided, okay, if we're going to shake things up, do things differently, what are some of the rules? Like, what are some of the ways we're going to do that? Production minimums became a key one. We don't want just a bunch of hacks. We don't want to just put butts in seats. Let's face it, there's way too much dead weight in real estate. Everybody knows it. And it's really problematic. It's not that we don't want new people to enter the real estate market. It's nothing like that. We just don't want people who are part-timers, who are not taking it seriously,
right,
that are just, they see some stupid TV show and they think, oh, I can make some easy money walking around a house, dressing nicely, driving a super cool car,
yeah,
and cash in. Like that's the stuff we want to filter out. And the easiest way we found to filter that noise out was production volume minimums.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't hit a certain minimum, we're not even going to be talking to you as a partner. If you hit a certain minimum, but not quite enough, we'll put you on one of our teams. Mm-hmm. We've got teams all over the country now, and everybody's always looking to grow their teams.
The beauty is that they are the conduit for us to really help the end consumer, the buyer, the seller, get great representation. We partner with the industry leaders in their communities who actually know what they're doing. Our veterans have understanding of difficulties of the transaction of the finance piece, or helping minorities, first-time home buyers. Mm-hmm. And through partnering with them, thus we elevate the rest of the industry.
Sure. Yeah, and just talking with a lot of the people that are driven with a mission of, you're saying, first-time home buyers, and especially their origin stories of I came to this because I felt that, I did a real estate transaction, I wasn't treated correctly, mm-hmm, or my parents were given bad advice or something like that. As you're going through and developing the app and I'm going to say app, when you're developing the platform, I guess, mm-hmm, is really the better way to look at it. You asked about AI, mm-hmm, and I think that's really interesting because we're not implementing it yet for no reason, right? And there are people that are throwing it in there. If you, I don't know if this is a fair question.
Do you have a crystal ball, Ed? Is that where you're
going? I guess it's kind of like if you had to guess like where, what is it? You need to skate where the puck is going to be, right? I think Wayne Gretzky either said or didn't say. Yeah, I can't take
sports
that.
ball.
I know I can't take the credit for that. But where's the puck in your mind?
Sure. It's pretty clear to me. So let's assume once we finally solve this problem, we've nailed contract to close. We've built this platform that has everything that they could ever want and need. And it streamlines the whole thing. It's just doing what we've wanted it to do since the very, very get-go. What's next? To me, it's an integration play. So that's what this whole marketplace is about. So let's say you got, I don't want to name names, but let's say there's like some specific tool that you absolutely love. There's a lot of instances of this. You know, a real estate agent or a team or whatever, they've got some tool or some plethora of tools that they absolutely love. But because they can't connect their deal flow to that tool, there's this enormous amount of manual effort to copy and paste everything over. And then you've got the synchronization issue now too, because you've got the same data in two different places. Right. I think one of the best things that we will do in the future is create a data API. And it's fancy way of saying a way of connecting the data that you put into our product, into our platform, with whatever your favorite third-party tools are. And that's going to manifest its way into a lot of different forms. So in some instances, let's say it's like a marketing platform, and in fact, we've actually already done this one. I'll start with one that we've done since it's easier to wrap your head around. Let's say you got 2170 Filbert Street as a listing. It just popped in there in your deals platform. The listing agreement got executed. So we know we're safe to start moving forward with maybe some marketing collateral. And we've got some photos of this property, and we also threw this into this transaction platform that site is built.
I think that's great. Ed, we appreciate you. You will have to come back again because we will have episode number 2 from our tech series.
Yeah, at Ed's pool.
At Ed's pool. Right. We will do it. Yes, we will do that. But we appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your origin story and your view on how Side is our vision of technology and how we're working towards the agent. So
that's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And we will see you all on another episode of Own It. Thank you all.